leadership excellence. When we smash these words together, what we're really talking about are the what it take ingredients or behaviors for a leader to endure the act of leadership. So when we're unbalanced in our leadership approach, what we end up doing is straining our endurance, and we run ourselves into fatigue, burnout, and poor performance. So here's an example. In leadership, if we're unbalanced in our use of empathy and assertiveness, which can show up in, I want to be liked, I'm not here to make friends, we can run up against excessive stress levels. And in those excessive stress levels, our performance begins to tank. And when leadership performance tanks, it has a rippling impact throughout our organization. So let's take a look at this example of empathy and assertiveness when it's unbalanced. So I want to be liked can be seen as empathy in its ruinous form toward performance. Too much empathy can guide a leader into empathy fatigue, where their desire to be liked, to be compassionate, maybe perhaps enables behaviors like sweeping performance flaws under the rug, not addressing toxic behaviors, picking up the slack from their direct reports rather than holding someone accountable, letting things slide. And in doing so, they end up running themselves into the ground. On the other side of that equation, we have the I'm not here to make friends, where we see assertiveness used in a very toxic way to culture. Too much assertiveness guides a leader's actions into more command and control styles of leadership, aggression, coercion, manipulation, without attention to individual well-being and performance. So in essence, a leader in that mode can become detached from the pulse of their people and fail to recognize absenteeism or presenteeism, disengagement, a string of grievances that come into HR about them, internal sabotage, gossiping, a culture where no one has your back. And essentially what results from too much aggression or too much assertiveness is a lack of psychological safety, and ultimately that turns into poor performance. So if you happen to find yourself lacking in leadership endurance, meaning you are noticing the fatigue and the strain and the stress and the burnout of leading, give attention to where you may be unbalanced. It might be in empathy and assertiveness. It might be in independence and interpersonal relationships. It might be other elements in leadership that are unbalanced. Once you identify where you're unbalanced, then you need to identify the balancing skill. In emotional intelligence, there are always balancing skills to each other. And when you identify the balancing skill, then it's about deciding what is the wise action you need to take to balance your scales, to balance your skills with each other. That will turn over into an increase in your endurance capacity, and you will very quickly notice that things like fatigue and burnout start to go away and performance goes up.